More. You got to do more, right? Do more, work longer, work harder. Uh, that didn't work for me. You guys have seen the picture if you've followed Small Business Saturday. Is that working for you? Is the real question. Are you maybe worried that you should be further ahead? Do you feel like something's wrong with you, even, right? Are you feeling like you're spinning your wheels? Do you keep just adding more effort and then hoping and using hope as a strategy? That's not going to fix your business. I tried it. At least for me, it never worked. But the good news is actually doing less with more clarity will fix your business. So that's what I want to chat about here with you guys today. I am live here today. So hello, Keegster. Appreciate you tuning in, and anybody else that is here. Just let me know where you're tuning in from and how everything's going in your small business or in your world today. But that's what we're going to talk about today, why doing more isn't helping and what to do instead. So with that being said, let's go ahead and hello, Sandy. Thank you for tuning in as well. Let's hit the intro and then we'll come in and come back and chat about that.
Dark gaze, overwhelmed, trapped in a maze. Small business owner, stress had me in a daze. Every problem piled up, couldn't catch a break. Thought I couldn't make it, my dreams were at stake. But then I found a group that changed my whole perspective. Our success group of a community so effective. We all chasing that dream, sharing struggles and fears. They understood my journey, wiped away my tears. Together we grow through, we rise above. No more feeling stuck, we're fueled by love. Our small business is shining, reaching new heights. With the support of our success group, we're taking flight. The power is strong, the vision so clear. Building our dreams with no more fear. Together we're resilient, unstoppable force. With our success group.
Let's talk some business.
All right, you guys. Well, welcome into Small Business Saturday. My name is Aaron Montgomery, and I am the author of this book here, The Fundamentals of Business Success. And every week we walk through kind of the cycle that the book follows, the plant, prepare, pollinate cycles. And it's kind of a rhythm, right? And I found that if we can keep in this rhythm, things really start to change. And I want to shed some light on some truth today. And, as a person who is known as a workaholic, as somebody that's been overwhelmed, I want to bring a truth to light here. Be honest and be transparent with you. We do not have a work ethic problem, right? I know that we're tuning in on a Saturday, right? But it's not about your work ethic. It's really a clarity problem. And so that's what I want to break down with you guys today. As usual, we start with that plant or the mindset. And I just want to talk a little bit about it, the mindset of the pressure that we feel. And maybe it's just me. So let me know in the comments if you also feel a lot of pressure around your business. And maybe it's pressure that nobody will ever see, right? You feel that responsibility to your customers, to everybody in your community. You feel obviously the responsibility for your family. You feel a responsibility to buy from the people that have been good to you, your vendors, right? Maybe you've got employees. It's more than just a job, right? You want to be able to provide for them. And then obviously, the other thing that I know I feel a lot of pressure about is our future, right? Like what is our success group going to become? What is my partnership with American Print and Supply going to become? Sorry, wrong side. There's a ton of pressure. And I think even when things are going well, it can sometimes feel like we're teetering, like we're one decision away from something going incredibly wrong. And I think that's just a natural instinct. I think that's our natural human instinct to keep us away from fear. But if we let that evolve, and I let this evolve for me, we let it evolve into then guilt, right? Like I should be further ahead. I should be. I'm shoulding on myself over and over again. And I promise I'm not cursing at you there. Should, SHOULD. Chandler says, oh man, let me go get a quiet place with my notebook here. Right. So I'm not sure if I'm the only one feeling this or not, but we start to get that pressure that then turns into guilt. And that pressure that turns into guilt kind of tells us things like we should be further ahead now, right? We should know more. And so you're not alone if you felt that way, first and foremost. Secondly, it is not a character flaw. It's not, it I just got a message from somebody that made me laugh there. So Sandy says, I definitely feel that way. So again, we're in very good company here. Sandy is a very amazing and successful person, and she feels that pressure too. So high five, Sandy. We're in that same boat. And honestly, the guilt kind of creeping in is actually a really good sign that you actually care about your business, right? You're not just there for the money. And there's a hidden reason, though, the twist about why we stay stuck. And this was the trap that I got myself into, is I thought the answer was more hustle. I put in more hours. And don't get me wrong, I still really enjoy working hard, and I do put in a lot of hours. I sometimes forget what day it is, and but I'm having a blast doing it, right? So it's not about more hours. It's not about more self-sacrifice, right? Oh, I'm sorry, family, we can't take the trip to Hilton Head, right? I have to sacrifice. I have to become a martyr, right? The hidden reason is not the effort. The hidden reason is we don't know where we're going. We don't have a clear purpose. And so it is really a lack of clarity. And when you can see clearly where you're going, then you'll start to be able to see what then moves the needle, right? Because your actions are now a gauge instead of just a hope and a prayer. Right? Your actions become a way to understand what's working and what's not working. Your actions become a way to understand where your energy is best served. And so let me continue to kind of share about my journey, where this came from. I did that, right? I was piling on everything. I read all the books about the 10x your hustle, and you've got to have 7 streams of income. And I really thought that's what leaders did. We did everything, and we showed up, and we worked harder than anybody else. And I'm not saying that's not the truth, but I was just grinding with no real purpose or no real clarity of where I was heading. I was putting in more hours. I was adding more tasks to my to-do list, pouring in the coffee and the caffeine and Coke back in the day, Coca-Cola, not cocaine. Just FYI, I want to be clear on that. And I felt like I was busy. And I actually had a moment from a friend of mine that really helped me understand that just recently. I was asking, I think you guys heard this on a previous Small Business Saturday, but I was asking her, hopefully your business is keeping you busy. And she's like, I don't really like busy. I feel productive. Right. And so that's what I was. So I was busy. And then I finally, lots of different things pushing me, said, what am I actually put on this earth to do? Right. And whatever that is for you, God, universe, source, whatever, right? For me, it's God. What did God put me on this earth to do? And when I started asking that question and looking for answers to that question, that's when I started to become more clear about what my purpose was. And over the course of the past 5-6 years, I've really gotten more and more clear each and every day. It's a process. It's a daily cycle, right? That's why the book is in a cycle. It's not a straight line, point A to point B, and here's success. It's a keep doing the things. It's going to get easier. It's going to get easier. It's going to get easier. It's going to get better. And you're going to fall deeper in love with what you get to do each day. And I discovered that's what the strengths I was given are there to help me show people how to fall in love with their business, right? The values I have, the things that are important to me, the being solution oriented, the hard work, the competition even were given to me as a guardrail to point me towards my purpose, right? The things I'm passionate about. The fact that since I was a little kid, from as early as I can remember, I've been around small business owners, right? And I love volleyball because of the teamwork that I see in the business owner community, right? So all these things led to a really clear purpose. And once I saw that, then the actions I started taking started lining up, right? And I was able to actually do less, but the less was more productive, and the results follow, right? And I'm not saying I'm there yet. What I'm saying is I can see it, and I can see the things lining up, and going from there. So Yeah, here we go. So Chandler says, too many tools that overwhelm me, that just put me on autopilot. Busy work wasn't purposeful. Now I'm taking a breath to get my values back, right? Absolutely. And we're going to talk about kind of the strategy here that might be helpful for that in a second, Chandler. So I appreciate you sharing that. So that's kind of the mindset, right? First, giving ourselves that grace and space to say, you don't need to do more, right? You don't have a work ethic problem. You really have a clarity problem. And that's okay, right? It's not going to become instant. You're not just going to go, oh, I have a clarity problem. Up, clear, right? Yes, you are going to have some aha moments along the way. And those are going to feel really good. And you're going to get really excited. And then you're going to go really hard for a little bit. And then you're going to run head on into a wall. And you're going to be like, oh man, I feel like I'm back at square one. But the truth is you're not, right? You have to ask yourself, what am I learning in this struggle that I'm going through right now? And so then we need a strategy. And this is the prepare phase. And I really want to start off with an understanding of what energy is. There is a science to energy. And there's also a science to the scattered energy that we feel ourselves in from time to time when we're chasing everything. And when we have that scattered energy, right, we don't have enough to really focus on one thing. And so the important things don't get enough of our energy. Everything starts getting some of our energy. And then we become more in tune to all of the interruptions, right? We've got this tool right here that is an interruption machine. It's designed purposefully by really smart people to steal your time so they can serve up ads to you, right? All of our apps, all of that stuff. And so we then start putting more pressure on ourselves. Oh, darn it. Why did you scroll the social media, Aaron? I know the cat videos were funny, but what, and that then now we get guilt, right? We see that cycle, right? But what we can do is we can reverse that cycle. And so it's not about hustling more. And it's really about saying, oh, okay, yep, I have lost clarity. I need to come back to my reason, my why. And so from there, then we have to think about the strategy of going, okay, movement versus meaningful movement. Because when momentum stalls, right, when we've got to that stuck point, right, like Chandler, for example, says, taking a break to get back to my values. And that's awesome to take a break. But sometimes also that break can be a challenge because now you're at a standstill, right? So think about if you're pushing something up an incline while it's going, yes, it might be a struggle, but it's going. But the second you stop and then you got to get that thing going again. So think about riding a bike, right? That very first pedal or two are the most energy output that you're going to give to really get it going. But once it's rolling, you've got momentum going, the next pedals are good, right? And then you come to a hill or you have to stop or whatever, and then you get back on it. So we need to understand then that continuous action is important, but sometimes if we let that continuous action just become, like Chandler mentioned there, busy work, then that actually runs us into a wall. And so think about breath, not break. Yep. There you go, Chandler. Thank you for clarifying that. So think about like social media posting, for example, right here. We'll just use that as something. If you're just randomly every once in a while posting something and then you're not getting the results and right. Oh, but I was busy. I posted on social media. Okay. What if you post with a plan, right? What's the goal? Because sometimes we just post to post. Oh, well, I want people to buy my stuff. Great. But what's the real plan, right? What's the journey you want them to go on with you? How are you going to do that? Because we have to understand social media is just a tool. It's not a magic bullet where I post on social media, I get sales. No, I have to connect with those people. I have to get them to know, like, and trust me. And so it starts with doing something a little bit uncomfortable from time to time, maybe putting yourself on video, maybe talking about something that has nothing to do with your business. Maybe it's bringing on somebody else and supporting them, right? It really is about building that know, like, and trust. So when you have a plan, now it becomes easier. You don't have to post 27 times a day. But if your audience starts to understand that every Wednesday night you're going to show up and you're going to be happy and bubbly and just love being there, regardless of who shows up on the other side, right? Then you're going to have more meaningful movement, right? And the same thing happens in all sorts of different areas in our businesses each and every day. Pricing's the same way. If you just kind of wing it, you go ask what you should charge for this on messenger groups or whatever, versus, hey, I've taken a little bit of extra effort in that first few pedals to make sure I know my number and I also understand what my values are. And so therefore I've got a really good pricing formula, right? Yes, I'm going to trust my instincts for sure, but I'm not just guessing every time I have to price something new. Or let's talk about just taking orders, right? Oh, I had somebody say, I'm interested in X, and therefore I have to go figure out how to do that. And then you've put all your energy at that, but yet you're not keeping your business going forward versus going, okay, here's what I'm good at. Here's what I love doing. I'm going to say yes to those. I'm going to look for more people that are looking for that. And if I get those side projects, if it's easy, then great. Otherwise, I say, no, I say, hey, thank you so much for the opportunity. Here's what I do. Do you know anybody that might need that? And maybe you could direct them to somebody else for that project, right? So it's taking the right jobs versus taking any jobs that just keep you busy. And we go from there. And then so clarity really then starts beating hustle. Once we start slowing down and actually doing less, we're going to actually get further along and have more progress than hustling and just going, right? So it's this balance. We don't want to get to stop to where we're not doing anything, but I don't want to be going so hard I don't take time to understand what the real value of those actions are. So it's right here in the middle of clarity of where I'm heading. So it allows me to stay in action regardless of what the results are. But I'm not going so fast that I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. Right. And so it's when we get out of balance that things really are important for us to stop and take a breath, like Chandler said. Right. And then I'm going to put a pin in that comment, Chandler. Thank you for that. So yeah, tell me where you guys are at with this idea, right? Where does clarity land for you? And so aligned action really matters more than the quantity of action. And so I was talking to somebody not too terribly long ago, and they had a whole bunch of things that they were doing. And my suggestion was this, and we're going to get into how this kind of works a little bit more in just a second in the pollinate the action phase here. But my suggestion was only do 3 things, right? And you've got that big old list, only do 3 things, and then don't even think about the others for right now, right? Save those for later. And because here was the reason for that suggestion. I knew that they were thinking about everything and they were trying to do everything all at once. I knew that because that's how my brain operates too. So it was like mine's here. This is what worked for me. And so if I just focused on the 3 things, right, whatever the number was, in this particular case, I chose 3. It just felt right. I said 3 things because when you have this list of 100 things and I say pick 3 things out of it, you're naturally going to pull the most valuable things out of it, right? Because you're trying to make progress. And so your subconscious, your gut knows what the most important things are, right? And I know you might not believe this about yourself all the time, but the truth of the matter is your subconscious, you have that ability inside of you already. You don't need to follow somebody else's plan. You need to follow your plan, right? What's in your heart? You need to follow your plan. And so when you limit yourself to only 3 things, you're going to naturally go towards the things that are the most impactful for you, right? And then you're going to try those things, but we're not focused on the results. And then we're going to learn from those experiences. And now we can go back to the list and pull out 3 more things and say, or we go back to the list and we go, oh, well, none of these things are important. I need to focus on this. And your list becomes better, right? And so it's really, instead of like having a whole bunch of random activities, the being in alignment and really understanding where you're heading, things almost kind of get this like obvious feel to it. But the other side of it too, at least for me, was there's this relief, right? This that breath of going, oh, I don't need to do 100 things, but if I do 3 things well that head me in the right direction, I'm going to be way further ahead than if I did complete all 100 of those things and was exhausted and needed a weekend long break to just sleep. Right. And again, I'm half the time when I'm doing, you guys have heard me say this before, but I just want to reiterate for anybody that's maybe new or hasn't heard this in a little while. Most of the time I'm actually speaking into a mirror here. So I just want to be clear, right? I'm not speaking down to anybody. I'm talking to myself, and hopefully you guys are getting that same level of inspiration and joy that I'm getting out of it. So All right, so let's roll into the final cycle here. And again, tell me where you guys are at here right now. What have you taken so far from our conversation when it comes to the mindset of do less instead of more, and the strategy of really doing things that are impactful or meaningful? Actually, the fundamental number 10 of the book here is productive action. And so it's not about doing more, it's about doing less. I was actually talking to a friend of mine on yesterday morning, I guess that was now. And we were talking about some things, and he was like, man, I got to do all this. I'm waiting for this. And, he's just really having a hard time with patience. Right. And trust me, I know the fact that I just said that word is going to just, Kylene and Lewis might go, what? He even knows the word. But the reality is the more patient we can be. And so I encouraged him to at least take a look at the overview of a book called Procrastinate on Purpose. Right. So where are you at with meaningful or productive actions? What does that mean to you, and where you're heading with your business? I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments, or if you're live right now, definitely put that in there as well. So let's round out here today then with the pollinate phase, the action phase. And this structure and having continuous action, but also a structure or guiding light to what you're going towards, is actually going to create a ton of freedom for you, right? Just what we talked about just a moment ago, going from 100 things on your to-do list to 3, immediately that's going to create some freedom. And I think a lot of times, at least for me and the people that I've talked to, we felt like freedom was going to show up when we finally caught up, right? The quote unquote air quotes here, caught up, when our inbox is empty. And yes, I do really enjoy posting my inbox zero from time to time. But the reality is it's not really about that, right? It's about the fact that I have a structure and a system where I feel that pressure come off of me. And, or when I get all the orders done. Well, wait a second. Isn't that what you're doing this business for? Don't you want to get more orders, right? I want to get to a point where I've got so many orders that I'm not even doing them anymore, right? I've hired somebody to do that, right? Or the next big sale hits. Like the feeling here that I'm sensing in people is that there's some like kind of destination that we're focused on, as opposed to the continuous improvement and always asking, what am I learning right now? And so freedom comes from having a structure that keeps you from drowning in the first place, right? So I want more business. I want more sales. I want all those things to be true, but that's not for me to decide, right? Those are byproducts of me continuing to get closer and closer to my purpose, and then taking actions based on what feels right inside of me. And so a structure gives you a place to put those ideas, organize your commitments, and really make decisions quickly and easily, right? I think a lot of times the overwhelm is actually coming from burnout from decision making, right? I still get this, and I know this is something I continuously work on, but I've had a long day, kind of, maybe there's some stress, maybe some things didn't go my way, or whatever the case may be, or I'm really focused on one big project. And, Kylene will come home from the VA and she's like, what should we have for dinner? And I'm like, I don't need another decision, please. Whatever you decide, right? Like, you're hungry. I'm focused, right? But that's just coming from overwhelm, from burnout, right? I have to remind myself, hey, we have to decide what's for dinner. And again, I do truly don't care necessarily, but I know I have preferences. So, right. Like, it's managing that stuff, managing those decisions. And so I find that it's way easier for me to manage those decisions, because when I wake up and I have a rhythm and I have a structure instead of just winging it, then I know, okay, at 5:00 when Kylene comes home, I need to make sure that my rhythm is such that I can pause right there and we can figure out what's for dinner. And, oh, we've got to get Lewis to volleyball practice, or, we've got this big tournament this weekend. And so I'm not going to have that Saturday to do that. I need to record in advance, right? And so it's about rhythms that then support your goals. And a business without structure is something that you might relate to, right? Okay, interesting. I like the way Kylene Chandler. Sorry, I got distracted by the comments. See, it's been a little while since I've been live, so I haven't been distracted, but I love this. All right, Chandler says, this is why I don't plan vacations. I don't even know where we were going until we were there. it's the decision I never have to make. Absolutely. Right. And if that works for you, right. The problem for me is that then I have preferences, and yet I've given away that decision making power. And then I start having my opinions, and that's really rude. And yes, Kylene, I do understand that that's rude, but so it's a balance, right? For me, it's a balance. And you know, Chandler says, I'm meeting with a workflow specialist to help me exactly with what you're talking about. Interesting. I, you know, I'm not discouraging you, Chandler, from meeting with the person. I think getting information is great, but do reference back to the thing that I said earlier, that we have it all inside of us already, right? Like, the fact of the matter is, you understand the fundamentals, you know what the rhythms are, you've got all the tools and pieces. It's a matter of trusting yourself and continuing to take the actions and showing up and saying, what are my values, and living in those things, right? So yes, take inspiration from that. But if it's a formula, you don't need another tool. All right. I'm I know Chandler personally, and I'm going to throw that out there for you. All right. So when we're feeling pulled in all these different directions, it's not a motivation problem. It's a structure problem. And so let me just provide, again, I'm not giving you the thing. I'm not giving you a prescription here. What I want to give you is some guidance, some opportunities to build a system that works for you. And this is what's turned chaos into progress for me. And first and foremost, I just need a way to filter all of the decisions and ideas, right? And the best way that I've discovered to filter those decisions and ideas is to say, what are my strengths? What are my values? What are my passions? If they're out of alignment with those things, it's like a if this then that, right? It's an easy yes no answer. If it's in alignment with these things, it's a yes. If it's out of alignment with those things, it's a no. Now, I know there's a lot of gray area in there, but that's where then you have to go back to trusting your gut, right? And so that's the first part, have a filter. The second part is then have a way to make sure that you've got a plan, right? So with the fundamentals of business success and what we do in our success group and Masters of Success, like, we're saying, okay, 5 years from now, what does that future you look like, right? We actually have the future you parties, and that kind of gives us that idea of where we're heading. And then we come back and we say, okay, but what are you going to wake up on January 1st and go, gosh, that was a really great year, right? What is that number one goal? And then we can break it down from there, right? So, okay, what am I doing this week to get me closer to that number one goal? And then I can break it down from there. What is today's schedule look like that I'm in that rhythm that takes away the overwhelm, right? We use a fundamental 5 as a way to say, okay, pick 5 things. What are the most important things? And let's always commit to getting those things done, right? And then it's part of that plan is to then be accountable, right? And do what you say you're going to do. And I think a lot of times when we hear accountability, we think about external accountability. Okay, I'm Aaron. I said I'm going to write this book. I'm externally accountable. But that would have never worked until I became internally accountable, until it was here, right? Because otherwise I just would have made excuses for why not to, because I wasn't internally accountable, right? And so first, filter the ideas. Second, make sure that you have a system for planning your actions and understanding where you're headed, which then helps you understand what order things can go in. You don't have to have every step, but with that North Star, now we have a way to kind of understand, okay, yeah, this seems more logical here. Trust my gut, trust my instincts. And then I got to create that accountability. Do what I said I'm going to do, right? So if I say I'm going to do X, for me, it's really important. And so I make sure to write it down. Do I get it right every time? I do not. I'm human. And just like you're human. I know you expect to be perfect, but you're not, but you are perfectly imperfect, right? And I'm perfectly imperfect. So we start creating that internal accountability, and then we can bolster ourselves with other like-minded people and get that external accountability to push us through the hard ruts. But the only way that's going to happen, it still comes back to me. When I get in that rut, our natural reaction is to lean out, right? I don't want anybody to know that I'm struggling. And I get that. When you're just out there in the world and you don't have a curated group of people that love, that you know they love you and want nothing but the best for you, right? And so that takes intentionality, right? And that's what we create in the Masters of Success, with great intentionality. And so we got to then fight that natural instinct to lean out and instead lean into that safe space that you've intentionally curated. And then once you've got that accountability, then, right, you need a system for tracking your progress, because that system for tracking your progress is a great way to build that muscle of confidence, to build that muscle of trusting your instincts, right? Because your instincts are right. I know that there are that 9 times, that one time out of 10 that you trusted your instinct and it went badly, but it had nothing to do with your instinct being wrong. It had everything to do with being out of alignment and that teaching you there's something better, right? It's like, what, going back to that question, every result should be a, what did I learn from that? Not why was this result happen? Or why am I so terrible? Blah, blah, blah. All the things that kind of come naturally to us, we have to retrain those thoughts. And so the tracking of progress is a way to build that confidence, right? And that just doesn't have to be like, you could have a fun little, thermometer type chart or sticking things on the wall or even a spreadsheet that you're keeping track of things on. All that stuff's great, but simpler the better, right? And for me, it's just a monthly celebration. It's a monthly way to go, yep, I got there. Cool. And so the celebration part is the way that I track progress. And then I know where I'm at on the things I'm trying to do, right? I just put a program out I'm going to talk about here in a little bit, and that's been my number one goal for the whole entire year. And to be honest with you, I hadn't done a lot with it until just recently. And so I knew it, right? I got honest with myself and I said, okay. And I had the conversations with the people that I need to have the conversations with, and I got the green light and everything's awesome, right? So now I'm back on track and I'm going to reach that goal, even though I am only spending about 2 months on it out of the 12-month year. All right. Because internally things were being worked on. I had a way to track the progress. I knew where I was at, and I could trust myself. And then finally, just a poll, a guidepost, so to speak, to always go back to your SVPs, to stay aligned with your reason, right? And that reason comes out of your strengths, values, and passions. And so when you have that kind of a system, not once did I say do more. Not once am I suggesting that you should work harder, hustle more. All of those things are just about alignment, filtering your ideas, have a strategy or plan so you know where you're going, create some accountability, track your progress, celebrate, and then when in doubt, come back to your strengths, values, and passions, your reason. And that aligned action is always going to win. It's always going to move you forward more so than any hustle or grind ever will. Any draining any of your energy, it will always work better. And so if you've ever taken a step and said, wow, that felt easy, that felt easier than I expected, because that was aligned action. And this is the other hard part about this, is we expect it to be a struggle. We expect the hard, big goals that we have to be a struggle. But the reality is it's not. It's already in you. It's a let go. It's a release. It's changing your story. It's making those choices. And the steps are actually really simple, almost so simple that you're like, huh, that was easy, right? Well, it's just the easy button. Alignment's just the easy button. And so I feel so strongly about this that I'm like, gosh, I really need to, take it to the next level, right? So started our success group, started learning a ton, realized that I needed a structure for myself and to help other people with. So wrote the book. After writing the book, started doing some trainings like Fundamentals Live. Obviously the mastermind's grown out of that. And all that stuff feels incredibly right. And all of that stuff feels incredibly in tune with my reason. But I always felt like there was one other thing, right? I needed to be able to work people through the book, right? Like right now, you go get the book, you work through it on your own. And if you put in that commitment and you continuously work through the cycles, you've got it all right here. You don't need anything else. But the reality is life is hard. We need help. We need support. We need other people in our corner. And so as much as I love the Masters of Success, I knew that there also needed to be some structure to really help people implement that. And then they continue on with the Masters of Success. And so I knew that we needed something more. And so that's when I created the accelerator, right? A lot of help from Kylene, a lot of help from the Masters of Success, really giving me a ton of great feedback. But what the accelerator is a 12-week guided program with masterminding and all sorts of different things. It's not a course. And I'm not going to get, I'll talk more about it here in a little bit, but the whole point of that is getting people to a place where they can go, yeah, that was a lot easier than I expected. That wasn't that hard. That wasn't that scary. I love doing this. Oh my gosh. I love getting to do this each day, right? I want people to feel the same thing that I feel each and every day. And that's the whole point. Now, before I get into telling you a little bit more about the accelerator, if you guys don't mind here, I want to give you a practical, Chandler says, please tell me you're doing a fundamental studies project, please, with another workbook. So the fundamental accelerator, and I'll tell you a little bit. So I'm going to hold on to that for 1 second. Okay. Because let me do this before we get too far away from it. I want to give you guys a practical step that you could take regardless of the accelerator, regardless of whether or not you have the book or not. This is something you can do right now. If you're feeling that overwhelmed, you feel like you got too many things to do, you feel this pressure or guilt to do more, and you actually want to do less, right? So pick one area that you're stuck in, just whatever the simplest thing, whatever shows up first, just go with your gut here. And then ask yourself these 3 questions, and go ahead and write them down if you can here. I will put them in the comments as well. What outcome am I trying to actually create with whatever it is that you're stuck on? What's that North Star that you're pointing at, right? This is just to slow down to get us to, okay, where am I actually heading? Then the second question is not what actions, but what structure would make this easier, right? When I say structure, it could be what mindset, what way of thinking about this, or is there a better way to do it, right? A more stepped out process, right? Maybe the reason that you're stuck is you're trying to make this big, huge leap. And instead you set up a structure where you can do little bits along the way. And then the third question is, what of my strengths can I use to make progress instead of force it? All right. Now, if you're not familiar with what your strengths are, I've got an awesome test that you can take right now. And I'm going to type while I talk here because I just changed the link here. But it is osg.link/VIA, VIA, right? And I'm going to put that up on screen. If you go there, it's a 10 to 15 minute assessment, completely free. It's all science backed, and it's going to give you language and understanding of what your strengths are, right? Because then that third question is going to be that much easier. Which of my strengths can I use to make progress instead of forcing some action that's outside of who I am? And those 3 questions, those 3 things will get you unstuck right away, right? What outcome am I actually trying to create? What structure would make this easier? And what of my strengths should I lean on? Okay. So understanding that, and just go to osg.link/VIA. If you have not done that already, you don't have your strengths profile of some sort, but I think that's really important for us. All right. So that's your practical thing. From here, let me tell you a little bit more about the fundamental business builder accelerator, right? BBA, the business builder accelerator. If this is something that you're interested in getting more clarity, and you're not real sure, but you need a structure, right? This program mirrors the whole thing, except for what we're really doing is focusing on the pollinate cycle of the fundamentals of business success. So the first 3 weeks, as I said, it's a 12-week program, is going to be all about clarity and alignment. We're going to start digging into those core issues, really get a clear reason, get a better understanding of our strengths, our values, and our passions, and then start looking at what's going on in your business today, what your current outcomes are, what your current structure is, and what your current growth plan is. And then we're going to measure that against your SVPs, and we're going to say, what's the outcome you'd prefer, right? What's the structure you need to change, and what is the plan to implement that structure change? And then weeks 4 to 6, we're going to then build that structure that's going to bring in the stability, right? It's going to be business planning, things like pricing structure, workflow structure, marketing structure, customer journey structure. And we're going to get that in a place where it's easy to access so you can get it out of here and not have to hold on to that, right? You stop relying on memory or emotions or last minute reactions to all of these structured things in your business. We're going to do that. And then week 7 to 9, we're really going to start implementing and building momentum into these structural changes. And so there'll be lots of step-by-step things. You're going to practice taking certain actions. And in that week 7 to 9 is where I really believe people are going to start feeling lighter, and they're going to start feeling less stress. And they're going to, if they keep their eyes open for it, in hindsight, they're going to start seeing more results too. Right. And yes, it's going to take a little time, and things don't change overnight, but within a very short amount of time, much shorter than they imagine, results are going to become the byproduct of these changes they're making to their structure. And then the last 2 weeks are really just about scaling that, right? What do you do now? What's next, right? And so we're going to be working on protecting our time, staying aligned, avoiding overcommitment, using accountability as an amplifier to all of this, and keeping momentum when life throws you curveballs, right? When things change, when who knows what's going to go on in our country, for example, or your world, or personal life, or health, or whatever. Chaos is the constant, right? So how do we, as business owners who love what we get to do, how do we keep momentum each and every time? And so by the end of the program, you're also going to have a full business builder portfolio. This is going to be a Google Drive. And so instead of a workbook per se, Chandler, we're going to have a full portfolio of things that will allow you to personalize this. It'll be your personalized blueprint, so to speak. And it'll be something that you'll always look forward to going back to on the regular, right? You're going to work from that portfolio as you work on your business. And so just to kind of wrap this up, right? We've been pretty clear, broken businesses aren't fixed by working harder. And so I really feel like the accelerator is going to give you that structure, that clarity, and that accountability, and going from there. So just a soft invitation, right? We're only opening this up to 13 people. I've already got 5 people committed. And this is the first time I've actually really publicly announced it. I think I shared it yesterday on the Two Regular Guys podcast, but didn't go into this kind of depth. So this is just a soft invitation, right? I have a complete guarantee. Like, if you don't get the results that you believe you have paid for, no questions asked, no trying to argue with you or anything like that, I'm going to just give you your money back. And so it makes no sense for me to get people into this program that I don't believe are going to do the things that need to be done. And so the first step is just reach out to me, right? Let's have a quick clarity chat, and let's talk about, what this might look like for you. And so the easiest way to do that is to go to consultaaron.com, and right at the top there, you'll see a little button that says free clarity chat. And we'll just spend 15, 20, 30 minutes talking about your business. I'm not going to sell you anything. I'm not going to pressure you anything. Again, doesn't do me any good. And honestly, I'm not that good at it. So why would I do something that isn't who I am? Right? I'm a facilitator. So I want to say, part A, part B, do these things come together? Does this work? Great. Let's do it. If not, here's somebody else that might help you more. Right. And that's it. That's all that I want. And so I can't, wait to have that conversation with you guys. So appreciate the feedback here, Sandy. I can't wait to start the program. The other thing, I did talk to somebody that has already committed, and her biggest complaint was that it doesn't start soon enough for her. So we're going to start early on in 2026 to the official 12 weeks. And I said, no problem. Right. So I'm already working together with her. We're getting stuff going in advance. Don't need to. We'll do just fine in the 12 weeks, but I don't think anybody wants to put their business on hold for 2 months. So sign up today, and we'll work together. And here's the other bonus that I want to make sure that I share with everybody. Chandler and Sandy are already in Masters of Success, so they can tell you how impactful that is for them. But the reality is here, I know that after the 12 weeks, you're going to have the tools, but the accountability is what is really crucial. right? And that's what the Masters of Success is all about, is really about that community and accountability and knowing that you're not in it alone. And so if you sign up before the 15th of December, just reach out to me for that clarity chat to start. But you say, hey, I'm in before the 15th of December, you're also going to be given access to the Masters of Success program for the rest of 2026, right? And that's just a bonus. I'm just going to throw that in for these early adopters here, for the people that sign up before the 15th of December, as a way to just say thanks and give back. That's a $2,500 value for them. But I want them to see the power of a mastermind, right? For me personally, right? Maybe they want to continue in 2027, and that's great, but that's not what it's all about. If they fall deeper in love with their business, then we're in good shape, but it's a win-win scenario, I believe. So, Sandy, I can't wait to have you in it, and I'm excited to have you along for that. All right, you guys. Well, that's what I've got for you today. Next week, I will be having a Small Business Saturday, but it will not be live. It will be recorded, and I might even be wearing the same shirt. Who knows? But next Saturday is actual Small Business Saturday. So I've got a special program about overwhelmed to aligned. We're going to keep this theme going a little bit. And I'm just going to give you more practical tips. It'll be nice and short and sweet. So if you have a little bit of a Thanksgiving coma after a really great Thanksgiving meal, if you're in the US here from Thursday, or maybe you hit the Black Friday sales and spend a little time on your feet at the malls or whatever. So just nice, quick, simple, overwhelmed to align. That's happening next Saturday, and that will be recorded. So come right back here to liveosg.com to check that out. All right. So you guys have an awesome rest of your Saturday, and we will talk to you very soon.
Dark days, overwhelmed, trapped in a maze. Small business owner, stress had me in a daze. Every problem piled up, couldn't catch a break. Thought I couldn't make it, my dreams were at stake.